OIW
Hello, all my beautiful people. It is time once again for another amazing episode of If You Give a Dad a Podcast. So this week I have somebody with me that I'm really excited for you guys to hear. It's a little different than things that I've had on here before, but as you know, I'm trying to bring in more different types of guests on the show. I'm still going to have all the wrestlers like I normally do, but I'm trying to bring in some different stuff as well. And this guy is Charlie Cates. He is a fellow podcaster and an author of his own book about exercising and helping men get back where they need athletically. Say they were an athlete in school or something like that, and they've since lost that. He helps them to get back to that point. He's worked with different professional athletes like Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees and some of the other ones as well. I'm really excited for you guys to hear this episode today. And for those of you who are here just to listen to the Charlie Cates episode, welcome. I hope that you enjoy what you hear, and I hope that you stick around and listen to some of the other great episodes we have here as well. So, if you guys are as excited as I am, then let's get this show on the road.
If You Give a Dad a Podcast. Hey, Dad.
So where did you actually train at?
I made a really good career out of being able to bump, sell, and I had a punch me face.
I wasn't about to call you dad, so.
Seriously?
I felt like I was in an anime or something.
People get really mad at those videos for some reason. Like it triggers certain people. Yeah.
Wow.
I was actually lost as an infant, and I was taken in by a traveling group of independent wrestlers.
I love it. I'm excited for this one.
Bro.
Get punched in the face on the daily. Do you always do these interviews with your shirt off?
What?
Man, this guy won't shut up.
All right, everybody. So today I have a guy with me that pretty excited to have on. It's a little different than anything that I've had on here before, but I think this is an important subject that needs to be brought up. I have a lot of dads that are listeners. I'm a dad myself, so this is an important subject for me to get into as well. He's a fellow podcaster. He has a podcast called Exercise is Health. He's also the author of the Exercise for Life method, and he's worked with a number of pro athletes and pro sports teams and stuff like that. And I'm very excited to have him on today. He kind of helps men in their, they're through their 20s and stuff, kind of getting that dad bod, helping them to get their health back and everything. So I'm very excited to have Charlie Cates on with me today. Man, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm really excited to talk with you and kind of get into what it is you actually do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you introed it perfectly. Like I work with men that have kind of past what most believe to be kind of like their peak physical prime of their life. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, a lot of times we think of like you were saying, like the stereotypical dad bod, but a lot of the guys that I work with, they may be experiencing that to an extent, but they're also experiencing this like loss of kind of self, loss of identity of like, hey, I used to be somebody that used to exercise. I used to be somebody that, maybe was a high school athlete, maybe even a college athlete. But I don't know how to exercise now without hurting myself. And so I help those guys be able to exercise so they can be there for their kids. They can be fully present with their family. They can perform better at work and really be able to feel the way that they want to feel, strong, be able to feel athletic, be able to do the things that they want to do. Right.
Yeah. Just the other day, I went to the park with my kids, and I've got an 11 and I've got a 12-year-old, and, they're starting to get interested in different sports and things like that. And so we took a basketball and we took a football and I think a volleyball to the park, and by the time I was done, I realized how out of shape I actually am now.
Yeah. No, it's crazy how unexpected it kind of creeps up on you. You're like, okay, yeah, I used to be able to do that. Like it should come back pretty quick. And then you get to thinking about it. It's like, oh, wait, it's been 5 years, 10 years, 15 years or more since I've really pushed myself on a consistent basis. And the trap that most guys fall into is they're like, well, I know I want to get that back. That means I got to go back to working out how I was or try to aim for that. And that's when they set themselves up for injury. And so I try to help guys troubleshoot that, like bypass that whole injury state, but be able to get back to going to the park or, playing the sports with their kids or just feeling the way that they used to feel without all the negative stuff that we normally associate with exercise.
Right. So how did you actually get started on this journey?
Yeah. So, all growing up, I played sports. I was, a basketball player through high school, through college. And my focus really was sports performance. And, it started off kind of like before high school in like middle school where I started seeing, if I train my body, I get, I perform better as a basketball player. Well, this is awesome. And that really kind of hooked me as like, okay, well, how far can I take this whole physical training thing and be able to see improvements in my performance? And so that worked well through high school and through college, like really trying to perform as an athlete. The problem is that by the time I finished playing college basketball, my body was completely broken to the point where I couldn't stand up out of bed in the morning without the entire right side of my body tightening up from my foot all the way up to my neck. I couldn't run for more than 10 minutes without my whole body screaming at me to stop. It was like every single night I'm falling asleep with ice packs strapped to my joints because my body's so aching and sore. And I'm sitting there thinking, crap, like if this is how I'm feeling at 24 years old, is my 34, 44, 54, 64-year-old self, is that reality just going to be filled with surgeries and pain? Right. And the problem is that I had so built the identity for myself of somebody who was strong and somebody who was athletic that really I was left with the question, either give up that identity or risk injuring myself. And because I was so tied into that identity of wanting to be strong, I want to be athletic. And from the outside looking in, I was, but I was also like one misstep away from rupturing my Achilles. I felt like I was just, one bad lift away from rupturing, my biceps. And so I chose to say, hey, you know what? Despite what my body's saying, I'm going to keep pushing through. I'm going to keep going despite my body saying, yeah, dude, you're about to injure yourself. Yeah. Fortunately, I met some mentors and I met some colleagues that helped to direct me in different directions before I actually injured myself. And that was a huge thing. I got introduced to this modality called muscle activation techniques. And then I got introduced to this understanding of exercise called the resistance training specialist program. And so I started to see how to change the different aspects of exercise to actually make it feel good for my body. From there, I went into grad school to learn and study how exercise actually goes about improving our health. We're told, okay, you exercise and you get healthier, it'll lower your blood pressure. You'll have this cardiovascular benefits and, make your muscles stronger and everything like that. But it's like, okay, but how does that actually happen? Yeah. And so I went and I learned a lot of those details within grad school. And then once I finished that in 2016, I had this skill set to understand not only how to make exercise feel good for my body and for my client's body, but then how to dose it properly to get the health benefits that we're wanting. And so from that point, it's like, okay, cool. Now I can exercise in a way that leaves my body feeling great during and after the session, that I can keep coming back to, keep building my strength, keep building my athleticism, and see some really cool changes in my health. And I realized, oh, wow, like there's a lot of people that don't understand how to do this because of the way mainstream fitness markets the exercise industry. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like this needs to be understood by more people. So we started our podcast. My wife and I started our podcast, wrote our book that, really kind of detailed everything out and just been trying to spread that message from there.
Wow. So yeah, there's one thing, it goes hand in hand. And I guess what you're saying is it shouldn't be this way. But whenever I think of working out and stuff now, I always think of, this is going to hurt, And so from what I'm getting from what you're saying is it shouldn't be that way.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And this is something that so many guys in particular get tripped up on, because here's the thing, where most guys learn to exercise is in high school athletics, like high school sports. Right. And so, some guys go into college and we get a little bit more training about how to work out and stuff, but essentially that becomes our baseline of how to work out is as a high school athlete. And at that point in our lives, a lot of guys can tolerate a lot of pounding. A lot of guys can tolerate like just a lot of volume and a lot of, for lack of a better term, like stupid training because you're so young and so resilient, right? And yet we still normalize this idea of like, oh, well, I should be sore after. I've been sore every time I've worked out, before. I should be sore. And we start to wear that as kind of like this badge of honor. It'd be like, oh, I know I did a good workout yesterday because I'm sore today. Right. The problem with that is when people are motivated and when people like feel like they have, great willpower to be like, okay, I'm going to keep pushing through the soreness. I'm going to keep coming back. Okay, sure, fine, whatever. But most people end up waking up the morning after a workout and they're like, I don't like the way, I don't like the way I feel. Right. And the problem with that, the problem is as soon as that thought starts to cross their mind of like, maybe I don't want to do this thing anymore. Now, all of a sudden they set an end date. The day that they're like, okay, the day that I'm done working out, that's the day that I stop getting the health benefits of exercise, as opposed to taking this thing and making it something that you can do for the entirety of your life. You're saying, I just can't keep doing this thing anymore, which means you don't get to keep getting the health benefits from it, which means you don't get to keep enjoying the health benefits of it. And that's a really dangerous place to be.
Yeah. So there was one thing that you mentioned a minute ago, and I wanted to ask you what this was. You said muscle activation techniques. What is that?
Yeah. So it is an approach to working with the body that considers where there's a breakdown in the communication between the nervous system and the muscles. So it's kind of like if your car has a dead battery, like you can have the biggest engine in the world, but if it's not receiving signal from the battery, you're not going to be able to access any of the horsepower, the torque. Okay. But as soon as you reconnect the battery cables, or as soon as you change out the battery or, jumpstart the car, it's like, boom, instantly all the horsepower, all the torque that is already built into the engine, you can now access a relatively similar thing happens with our muscles, where they start to lose the signal that they get to contract from our spinal cord, from our central nervous system. It dampens and it decreases, especially when we've had injuries, when we haven't used our muscles for a really long time. Right. And so because of that, now all of a sudden, a lot of people, their body starts aching. It starts feeling tight. They start feeling these compensations and these issues come on that we just attribute to, oh, I'm just getting old, or, it's just what happens, when you get to, 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever. Right. So with MAT, what we do is we look to see where those disconnects are between the muscle and the signal that it's receiving. And we help improve that strength of that signal to the muscles so they can contract and work the way they're supposed to work.
Okay. I'm loving this. This is, it's really interesting because, like I said, I'm a dad and I'm not as athletic as I used to be. I have the dad bod, I'm at the heaviest weight that I think I've ever been at. So, I've started trying to get more healthy. I've started trying to change the way I eat,
Awesome.
I'm trying to drink more water. That is
great.
Very hard.
Yeah.
In fact, I keep you can't see this, but I've got a little 32-ounce water bottle that I just keep filling up. I keep it on my nightstand at night. And then I have one that I take to work with me and I refill it there and everything. Water has been a big deal for me because before that I was just soda pop all the time, sugary drinks, and I know that was they're horrible for you, but that's just the way I went. And hydration is a big deal.
Yeah, no, it is. It absolutely is a huge deal. And it's one of those things that you don't realize. Most people don't realize how important it is until they actually start doing it, until they actually start being like, okay, I'm going to make the effort to drink water consistently to replace maybe the calories that I was drinking with, just water. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, wow. Like I'm noticing like a very quick and definitive change within how my body feels, my brain function and, my energy throughout the day and everything like that. Oh yeah. It's dramatic.
I noticed, when I eat cleaner too, I feel like I have more energy, so there was one day where I was off work and I just called it a podcast day. What I did is I recorded like 2 or 3 episodes that day. And
Nice.
I took time in between, and I went and ate a salad, and I've been drinking water throughout the day, and I just was like, okay, let's go. And I know there's plenty of times where I've been at work, where I'll grab an energy drink in the morning, and I just feel like crap by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. It's one of those things that like it builds over time. Meaning, when you're eating the snacks and the things that like that you shouldn't be eating, it's like, all right, you have the 1 or 2, it's not that big of a deal. But when you do it like day in, day out, week after week, and like consistently throughout the day, it's like all of a sudden you get to this place and you're like, oh, my body should not be feeling this way. Like, I shouldn't be this tired all the time. I shouldn't feel this lethargic. Like my brain I should be able to focus better. My energy should be higher and everything like that. And a lot of times it comes down to like drinking more water, replacing, the quick, fast snacks that you're so accustomed to grabbing, and just getting up and moving consistently throughout the day. Like if people just do those 3 things, irrespective of everything else that's going on, like that can make such a huge difference when you start to do it consistently.
Yeah. Consistency, that's been kind of a hard thing because, having a busy life makes it very difficult to find time to exercise and try to even find time to make the right foods, because sometimes that does take a little bit more time. So what would you say is a good way to kind of work in those workouts and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. So here's the process that I recommend people following. Okay. First thing that you want to do is you need to decide that you're going to exercise. Okay. The reason being is so to decide means to cut off or to remove all other possibilities. All right. And so when you decide that you're going to exercise, now all of a sudden you have cut off the possibility that you're not going to exercise. And once you remove that as an option, then the only thing left is for you to exercise. Okay. So it's first a mental shift that takes place. Okay.
Yep.
So that's step 1. Step 2 then is to start moving consistently throughout your day. See, the problem that a lot of people do is they end up skipping the second step. They're like, okay, cool. Like you see it all the time. January 1, you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to start exercising. And they jump to step number 3. Okay. You need to to make the decision. Then you go to step number 2. And the reason why step number 2 is so important. Okay. You get up and you just move consistently throughout your day, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time. This is not like a large exertion. This is not something where you should be sweating or breathing hard. It needs to be convenient, but you're just doing it multiple times throughout your day.
Okay.
Why this is so important is because as soon as you start to do it throughout your day, it starts to tell your brain that this getting up and moving thing, this is something that's important to you. Okay. And once your brain perceives that something's important to you, it will start to seek out and it will start to see more opportunities to do that thing. Now, we've all had this happen in our life where we start to we're imagining like, oh, I'm going to go buy this car. And we start telling our brain, hey, this car is important to me. And now all of a sudden on the way to the dealership to buy that car, we see 3 or 4 of the exact same cars that we're going to go buy. Did they just magically appear? No. It's because now all of a sudden your brain has a place to put that thing and say, oh, that's the thing. That's the thing that I want. That thing is important. The same thing happens with exercise and with being physically active. But it starts by making the decision that you're going to do it. So you don't leave yourself the opportunity to not do it. You decide, you cut off the possibility that you're not going to do it. Now, the only thing that's left is to go and exercise. Then you start moving consistently throughout your day, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time. How do you remember to do this? Set your phone timer. All right. Set your phone timer to go off every 30 to 60 minutes. When it goes off, finish your water, then go walk to the bathroom, then walk to fill up your water, and then walk back. You do that consistently throughout your day. Again, this isn't a large exertion, but it's getting up and moving around, okay?
Right.
So at step number 2, you're now telling your brain that this physical activity thing is important. Once you get that locked in and your brain starts seeking out and seeing more opportunities to do that, Then you can start to expand upon that 3, 5, 10-minute exertion, and you can start to do workouts that are 15, 20, 25 minutes, okay? Because your brain is starting to see more opportunities to move throughout your day. So we call these little workouts, all right? And the reason why these are so important is because one of the biggest things that so many people get tripped up on is this idea of, well, if I'm going to work out, it's going to be this 45, 60, 90-minute thing. Right. And it doesn't have to be that way. Yeah. Like you can get a really solid focused workout in 15, 20 to 30 minutes max. Okay. In fact, like I just wrote an entire program for somebody. And it's like, these workouts are no more than 30 minutes. And if you feel like after 20 minutes you're done, then you're done. And that's completely fine. So you have to give yourself permission to do workouts that last 20 to 25 minutes. And once you have that permission, then it's like, okay, cool. Well, I'm already getting up and moving for 5 to 10 minutes at a time. Like I can totally find another, 10 minutes to stack on top of that and get a 20, to get that 20-minute workout in. Now, the great thing about that is because it's not super long, it's less likely that it's going to be super detrimental to your body, which means you get to wake up the next day feeling like, okay, yeah, my body's not too sore. Like I could totally come back and do that again today. Right. And now you have the opportunity to stack those days. And and by following that 3-step process of first deciding, second, getting up and moving consistently throughout your day, and third, then expanding upon that using little workouts that take 20 to 25 minutes. Now all of a sudden you give yourself the opportunity to start exercising on a consistent basis. And really, you didn't even change anything in your schedule. You just changed how you thought about it, and you started changing the actions you would take to go and do that. Versus what most people do is they start and do this system completely backwards, okay? Yeah. They say, okay, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in, I'm going to join the gym, I'm going to hire the trainer, I'm going to sign up for the app, and these workouts are going to be 30 to 45 minutes, right? Yeah. And then they're either waking up the next morning, they're like, I don't like this, or they're like, I just can't fit it in like as much as I would like to. Yeah. And so once they get to that part, they're like, well, I guess I'll just start moving a little bit more throughout my day. And then they start to get in their head about it. They're like, I don't know that it's doing anything. Like, I'm not as active as I would really like to be. So, I'm not burning as many calories as I'd like. So I guess right now, I just don't have time to exercise. And so many people fall into this trap. So you just switch to order, 1, decide, 2, move consistently, 3, then expand upon that. It'll be a much easier road to being able to do that consistently.
Yeah, I mean, I like that because one thing that's always been a problem for me is whenever I get into the mindset of, okay, I need to go to the gym, it becomes very intimidating. It's okay, if I don't spend at least an hour there a day, then am I really doing anything? And right? I think that way, but it's I'm definitely going to be trying this out.
Nice. No, definitely do. And the other thing that people think, especially if they're traveling to go work out, they're like, well, I mean, I spent 5 minutes getting myself ready and 10 minutes commuting. And so, that's 30 minutes round trip. It's like, I have to at least be here for an hour. Otherwise, what the heck was the point? It's like, it doesn't have to be that way. So a lot of times we find that actually, if people are able to work out consistently at home or have workouts that they can do at home, that can be the catalyst to then doing those 45 to 60 minute workouts. But you get in the habit of doing the 20 to 25 minutes right from home. And then you're not worried about, the time you spend commuting or anything like that.
So what do you recommend for if you are going to do workouts at home? So recently what I did, we have an elliptical in our garage. And also we bought some of the 5 and 10 pound weights. And then we bought I think it was a 20 pound kettlebell. Nice. Yeah.
So, I love it.
What would you recommend as being a first set for somebody to get if they're going to want to do workouts at home?
That's a great question. So for most people, the place I would recommend starting is doing total body resistance training workouts. Okay. Meaning like strength training workouts. Okay. A lot of people default to my first place is going to be cardio, and that's fine and well. That totally has its place. I'm not anti-cardio by any stretch of the imagination, but here's the difference. Okay. when you do strength training workouts and resistance training workouts, you have the opportunity to do workouts that are directly building or rebuilding your body. Okay. And I'll explain what I mean by that. When you do cardio workouts, that oftentimes for most people is a time where they are using their body to then go accomplish something else. All right. Yeah. So let me explain what I mean. When you're doing exercise that builds or rebuilds your body, you are doing exercise where you are very focused on squeezing the different muscles that you're trying to challenge. Okay. Not only that, but you're not caring about the amount of weight that you're using or the number of reps. You're not the only goal that you have is to squeeze the muscles, to challenge the muscles that you are wanting to work. All right. And you don't have any type of comparison like, oh, well, last week I did 10 reps, so I'm trying to do 12 reps this week or anything like that. Okay. You're just focused on improving the health and function of your body by focusing on squeezing your muscles and through the different exercises that you're doing. Okay. It's much easier to do that when you're doing strength training than when you're doing cardio. All right. You can do it when you're doing cardio, but it's much easier for most people starting out to do it when they're doing strength training. Okay. Not only that, but when you're doing strength training, it's going to set you up to be able to do cardio for a longer period of your life because your body is stronger. Your joints are functioning better. Your muscles are functioning better. And so you can go and do the cardio for a longer period of your life. So if you're just starting out, all right, and you're like, okay, cool. Meaning you got the moving consistently throughout your day. Like you feel like, okay, cool. Like now it's time to do those 25 minute workouts. Yeah. I'm thinking total body strength training. Okay. So total body meaning like it's an upper body exercise where you're doing some kind of push, whether it's like a push-up or an overhead press, an upper body exercise where you're doing some type of pull, whether it's like a pull down or row, some kind of lower body exercise, whether it's like a squat or a deadlift, and then some kind of core exercise. Okay. So I'd be looking at kind of like 2 upper body exercises, 2 lower body exercises, and 1 core exercise. So 5 exercises. All right. If you do 45 seconds on with a 15-second rest, all right, for those 5 exercises, that's going to take 5 minutes. Okay. All right. And so because each exercise would be a minute then. Okay. Right. You can cycle through that 3 or 4 times, get a phenomenal workout, and you're done in 15 to 20 minutes. So that's how I would think about doing it. You're going to get a little bit of a cardio effect because of kind of going through it in a circuit style fashion, but it'd be 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off, for those 5 different exercises, 2 upper bodies, 2 lower bodies, and a core, and cycle through that 3 or 4 times. And that would be kind of a really solid starting place. Okay. Another thing that I would consider is using isometric exercises, which are exercises where you're not moving. Okay. So a lot of times this is thought of as like a plank or a wall squat, but really any exercise. Yeah. Literally any exercise you can turn into an isometric. So you could do an isometric push-up. You could do an isometric row. Okay. Yeah. The importance of that is it's going to allow you an opportunity to really focus in on squeezing your muscles, without having to coordinate a motion. All right. And the reason why that's so important is because when you focus on squeezing your muscles, all right, you are, number one, you're going to stay within a range of motion that feels good for your body. Number 2, you're going to strengthen that mind-muscle connection. So you're going to understand the feedback that your body's giving you as far as like when you should change how you're doing the exercise or when you should stop the exercise altogether. And number 3, you're going to ensure that you're not moving too fast when you exercise, okay? Which is one of the ways that a lot of guys set themselves up for injury is they just end up moving too fast. So if you take out the moving part at all, then you're not moving too fast because you're just still. Right. And then you're also staying within the range of motion that feels good for your body. You get to strengthen that mind-muscle connection and just focus on squeezing your muscles. So if those are different things that I would think about if like kind of just starting off. Okay. So you were saying that about the not moving exercises, and something came to mind that I've seen a lot here lately. There's a challenge that is out there on TikTok, and it's almost like a push-up,
But
Okay.
you're moving very slowly, and you got this little man on there,
Mm.
and he's trying to move through the maze, and you'll move your body up or down on where you want him to go through the maze at and stuff. And people are saying how far they can get through the maze, and it just gets harder because you're sitting there holding yourself up in that one position.
Yeah.
So
that sounds exhausting for sure.
Yeah, it looks exhausting. I haven't tried it, but it kind of, you saying that reminded me of that.
Nice. Yeah. So, what's cool about it is every single health benefit that you get from exercise really just comes back to contracting your muscles.
Yeah.
And so when you can separate the idea of like trying to, the choreography and the movement of it all, and you just zero in on the muscle contraction and the squeeze, not only are you going to stay safer while you're exercising, but you're actually going to get better results from your workouts, both from a performance standpoint and from a health perspective. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of using isometric, especially when somebody's first starting off or when they're having like trouble making mind muscle connections to certain areas of your body. Just being able to really kind of focus in and try to initiate that contraction, it can be a super useful skill to develop.
I got you. Okay. All right. So I kind of want to switch gears here a little bit, and I want to talk about, you actually have a podcast that you do with your wife. How did you start this podcast?
Yeah, great question. I mean, both my wife, Julie, and I, we were avid podcast listeners. And it was something that we had kind of brought up periodically, like in 2015 and 2016. And then we're like, yeah, but do we really have anything that we would want to talk about or that anybody else would want to hear, right? Like that's probably the idea that so many people think before they actually start their podcast. But we'd be eating lunch and we'd be having these conversations. It was just kind of like going back and forth. And we're like, that should have been a podcast episode. And so finally, that was happening so often. We're like, all right, you know what? We're going to start it. So the beginning of 2018, we started it. We released an episode every single Wednesday. So I think we're at like, I don't know, 277 episodes now, just like consistently weekly episodes. Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun. And what it has done for us is it's given us the opportunity to kind of flush out so many of the ideas that we have. Like, as you know, like as soon as you go and have to start talking about something and do so in a way that like, fingers crossed, people hopefully understand and like find entertaining and find value in, you have to actually get a lot more, specific about your ideas and be like very mindful of the language that you're using and how you're conveying your ideas. And so that has really been quite a gift that we have been able to receive, just being able to get that practice talking through so many of our ideas.
Now, did she help you with writing the book as well?
So she wrote the foreword for the book. And so but the rest of the book that was me between the hours of 4 a.m. and 6:30 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
Pounding away, with one young kid for the majority of the time I was writing it, and then two young kids for the majority of the time I was editing it. Those early morning hours, those are precious.
Yes. So what I do with this is I wait till I send my kids to bed, and then that's when I do my podcast, and that's when I edit and stuff like that. So I understand the trying to find time to edit stuff and just recording it and everything. So that's 4:30 and 6:30. That's rough, man.
Yeah. It was one of those things where like when I got the bug to do it, I'm like, all right, I have to find the time. And like, because we own a small business as far as like a personal training studio, and like we were it was just like we were just starting back up again, as far as like we were shut down because of COVID, and then we're like, okay, cool, like we can start actually being in person with our clients again. And I'm like, but I got this idea for this book. Of course, I've been home for 10 weeks, and and the last 2 days I get the idea for the book. It's like, come on. But and then we were changing offices, so we were like doing a build out for our office. So there was like a 6-week period of time where I hardly wrote at all, and then it was like, All right, cool. Like I'm back at it. So yeah, those early morning times, those are my writing times.
So let's kind of get into it a little bit about what your book actually goes through, because I mean that's part of the reason why we brought you on here, is to kind of tell us about your book.
Yeah, for sure. So it's called the Exercise for Life Method, and you know, I start off in the book kind of telling a little bit about my story, my background, kind of like we did earlier in this conversation, but also proposing this idea that like the fitness industry is really screwed up. And I have some stats in there that there are more doctor's visits every single day due to injuries and issues sustained from working out than there are diagnosed cases of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer combined. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So more people are visiting the doctor every single day than are getting diagnosed every day with 3 of the top 10 killers. Okay. Wow. And so the idea is like the thing that's supposed to be saving us from going to the doctors is actually one of the leading causes for us to go there. And it's because of like, the mainstream fitness industry is not there to make you healthier. They're there to entertain you. All right. Their whole thesis is that if we make this entertaining and fun enough, then you'll keep coming back to it, completely neglecting the fact that if we injure you in the process, you're not going to keep coming back to it. Okay. And so there are huge issues that are happening within the mainstream fitness industry. And so I first wanted to identify that, and then also identify that when we talk about, you know, things that actually contribute to our well-being and things that limit our well-being, physical inactivity is a huge thing that limits our well-being. In fact, there was a giant study that showed definitively, all right, that having low levels of physical activity and below average levels of physical activity are more detrimental to human health and longevity than heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and smoking. Right? And so when you hear, heart disease is the leading cause of death, it's not. All right. Smoking is the leading cause of death. It's not. Physical inactivity is a leading cause of death. And when you look at the top 10 killers, 8 of the top 10 can be directly or indirectly linked back to heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and smoking. Okay. And so when you look at that, you say, wow, actually physical inactivity is the leading cause of death in the United States. That's a huge issue. So why is that the case? Why are so many people with fewer than 1 in 4 Americans meeting the minimum amount of physical activity? Why is that so prevalent? Is it that just people are just, you know, everybody's just lazy and everybody's just too busy? And it's like, well, maybe that's part of it, but actually what the bigger part is people just don't like what's being presented to them from the mainstream fitness industry, because everything is about, hey, you know, get this physique or, you know, do these, look like this person, or, you know, it's just, people don't want that. People really actually truly don't care about that. But people do care about having good energy. People do care about not being in pain. People do care about being able to be there for their kids and for their grandkids. People do care about being able to remember their loved ones as they get older. And exercise can help you do all that. All right. So here's the thing. In 2019, so I said we started our podcast in 2018. In 2019, my wife and I hosted this live event that we called the Schaumburg Health Summit. It was awesome. It was like this TEDx type event, but it was specifically for health professionals. So we had like 11 speakers. We had like 75 people in attendance, rented out this hotel ballroom. We had a DJ. We had food catered in. Like, it was amazing. All right.
Oh, wow.
And I was going to be the last speaker of the day. Okay. So I knew I wanted to speak to something that was super important because it was going to be a take-home message for everybody. And so I decided I was going to look at exercise and longevity, because we always hear that exercise is supposed to help us live longer, but we're never actually told how. Okay.
Yes.
And so I started exploring these different ways of, things that were popular ideas as far as like how we live longer, as far as like, mitochondrial function, being able to produce more energy, or being able to like clean up and clear out damaged cells from our body, or being able to protect our body from chronic attack of reactive oxygen species, or this idea of like telomeres. Okay. And so I looked at all of those and tried to figure out, okay, well, how does exercise actually influence those? And I had this idea that, well, exercise really just comes back to muscle contraction. So what I needed to do is figure out where all these other things, increasing mitochondria, cellular autophagy, increasing and maintained telomere length, and protecting ourselves from reactive oxygen species, where the muscle contraction process fit into those things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking at different papers and going down these research rabbit holes. And finally, I started to see links between what was happening from a health and longevity perspective and being able to relate it back to muscle contraction. And it was like, holy crap, this really is the thing. It all comes back to muscle contraction. The more muscles that contract, the more frequently that they contract, the more intensely they contract, and the longer they contract for, the more of these benefits you get from a longevity boosting perspective. And I thought, okay, cool. So I gave my presentation. I thought, awesome. All right. Like this really is the thing. Then in 2020, I started thinking, okay, well, but what about these other health benefits that we allegedly get from exercise, like improvement of brain function, improvement of cardiovascular health, joint health and function, resilience from injury and stuff like that. And so I started looking up research papers on that.
Yeah.
And it all came back to muscle contraction, whether it was increasing the volume of your brain, improving memory, improving executive function, decreasing blood pressure, increasing the strength of the heart. It all came back to muscle contraction. And so then that became the premise for my book, The Exercise for Life Method, where in every chapter, I lay out exactly how exercise goes about improving the health and function of your joints, your cardiovascular system, your brain, improves longevity, wards off chronic disease and illness, helps your body recover from stress, and makes you more resilient to injury. And so then I put together a plan at the end that people can follow to actually get those benefits from their workouts, like the bare minimum that they need to do, and then what might be considered more the optimal plan. And so I lay it all out. I have close to 300 papers referenced throughout the entire book.
Okay.
And I just lay out step by step, like exactly how all this happens, but do so by interweaving stories and like a practical application. And what's neat about it, I know, the listeners won't be able to see, but like within the book itself, like I section off like in gray areas that are very, very science heavy. So if somebody's not interested in the science, they can skim right past it and still get a complete story. But if somebody wants to know the details, they can get those details and see all the papers that are referenced backing up the claims as well.
Wow. It seems like I like how thought out that this process is that you did with this book.
Thank you.
So, because, there are times where like they get into, like you said, the scientific side of it. And for some people, it just goes right over their head. And so you start reading those portions of books and it's almost like, yes, you're looking at the words, but it's not soaking in.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And so having it like that's really cool. I like that you're able to, okay, you can read this part, but I can still give you all the information you need without you hearing the scientific details of what we're doing here.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And I've heard from so many people that like they've got this book with absolutely no science background. They're like, oh yeah, this is a really easy read. Like it makes complete sense. Yeah. And I'm like, awesome. Then I did my job effectively.
But yes, no, I definitely I can see that, and I'm definitely excited about reading this book myself.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that for sure.
So, if people want to find this book, where can they find it at?
Yeah, so the best place to go is to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com. So it's studios plural with an s.com, and that's when they can link up, they can find where they can get the book. They can also get access to. We have a number of free programs that start to introduce people to our exercise concepts, like those little workouts that we're talking about. Programs that are designed that people can do right from their home, either, using no or very minimal equipment, get them done in that kind of 15 to 20 minute mark, and be able to start to understand our exercise principles and be able to apply them. And so that's really where kind of like all of our social stuff is, and everything like that is exercise, www.exerciseforlifestudios.com.
Okay. So you have your workout studio, you have your recording studio for your podcast, you have your book and everything. Do you have social media to where people can follow you if they want to?
Yeah. Absolutely. So my personal handle is just at Charlie Cates. So first name, last name. I didn't get creative with it at all. So it's just CHARLIE, and then it's CATES. That Instagram really is the easiest place to connect with me. My TikTok is growing, but truth be told, TikTok kind of makes my brain go crazy, so I don't spend much time on there. So, aside from like posting my one video, and then I'm logging out.
Well, it's a brain suck, that place. I mean, I'll sit there, and the next thing I know, it's like, oh no, it's been an hour. It's literally like stealing time away from you. So I hang out more on Instagram, but you can find me on TikTok as well. Okay. So do you have any goals set for this year with all of your programs?
Yeah, big time. So, we launched our kind of online exercise membership. And so that has been a really kind of big thing that we have gotten so much great feedback on. So for us, it's about, number one, being able to spread our message to the people that need to hear it. So we have I have my men's training program, and then my wife works predominantly with women. And so it's like, okay, cool. Like we're trying to, get people into those programs so they can start to experience our training. And then from there, if they're liking it and they're wanting more of it, then we have an entire library of literally hundreds of workouts that they can do that will continue to build their health and strength and function, as well as live workouts and everything like that. That is with our Exercise for Life membership. Really our focus is on that, being able to take the service that we're able to provide in person, and we figured out how to be able to deliver that digitally and virtually in a very, very high quality manner that people are just loving. And so it's really about kind of spreading our message, finding the people that it is able to connect with, and say that's the style of exercise that I'm interested in. It's not a get jacked or get shredded program, but it's like, hey, this is a program that you can do literally for the rest of your life, because it's all built around your body and making sure that how you're working out today sets you up to work out again tomorrow, and continuously building your health and function. So that's really our big goal is helping our message spread, talking with more people like yourself, and then helping people through our online program and online content.
All right. Is there any final thoughts that maybe you want to say to my listeners before I get you off of here?
I appreciate that. I think I touched on it for just a second there, but I really want to kind of reiterate this idea that the way you win this game long term. So exercise is not something that you should ever have to retire from. Okay. And a lot of times when we think about exercise and we approach it with the mindset of like sports and competition, we see sports as that like someday we're going to have to retire from those. But exercise is not something that you should ever have to retire from. Okay. And so instead of thinking about your workouts like sports, where you're competing with yourself or somebody else in your class, or literally you're playing a sport, instead think about your workouts in a way that think about your workout is something that you do today to set you up to come back and work out again tomorrow. Today's workout should set you up to come back and work out again tomorrow, okay? Which means you're not waking up the next day feeling achy and sore. You're not feeling completely depleted. You're not feeling like, oh, like I hated that experience. It should be something that you enjoy, that you actually feel more connected to your body with, that you feel energized, feel stronger, feel healthier. And then that is how you win this game long term, because that is how you are able to stack up your days of working out, because literally what you did today puts you in a position to come back and do it again tomorrow. Okay.
Right.
Follow that 3-step process, make the decision, start moving consistently throughout your day, and then expand upon it with those little workouts. Again, we give you great examples of exactly how to do that in both my men's program and my wife's women's program, which are completely for free. You can find those all at exerciseforlifestudios.com.
All right, Charlie. Well, it has been great talking to you tonight. I'm excited to get started with this program and stuff, and I will be getting that book here real soon.
Right on. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jared.
All right. You have a great night.
You as well.
It took me 10 years to make the perfect man cave.
And then we took it over. And we made it into the multiversal chamber.
Then I started my own podcast.
And we took that over too. And we're the co-hosts, the Multiverse Kids.
Yeah, and I'm the dad, the geeky dad. And every week, we what?
We review the movies, shows, and books, games, and toys.
Yeah, and sometimes we even have a special guest. So, join us every week on the Geeky Dad Podcast.
We are Talking with Words, and we are checking out every movie, every book, every video game, every TV show that we can get our hands on. Welcome back to Talking with Words. Sorry about your eardrums. You're here with Rob,
Sally,
Cameron,
Ryan,
and David.
Man, that fucking delay kills it, doesn't it? This will be fun in the edit room.
You should let him go first.
So how well do you know your favorite movie? How much hate do you have for your most hated movie? Because we can definitely help with that.
I'll buy you a drink. You don't have to flirt.
So tonight we're going to watch Memento. Hey, we're going to watch Nope. And we're going to watch the new Thor movie.
You know this is also called The Big Salad?
Maybe she had ribs like Matt Houston. They're just made of jelly.
I was thinking the same. You're so fragile.
You touch them and they just snap. Russell Crowe, when he comes down to address Thor, his little stop and pause, and he lifts his his skirt up and walks down.
Yeah, he prances down the stairs.
It was so good.
He has not aged well.
Come nerd out with us at Talking with Words, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Yow! Charlie, take it away.
Are we recording?
Have you ever wondered what the top 10 most streamed 90s songs are? Or what about the top 10 highest paid dead celebrities? Maybe the top 10 most common phobias? Hi there, I'm Nick, host of the 10ish Podcast. Every episode, me and my various sidekick hosts share trivia, fun facts, and hot takes as we try to guess each other's top 10ish list. Here's a little preview.
When he dresses up as a girl bunny, he drives Elmer Fudd and Yosemite Sam crazy with lust.
Mr. Monopoly's actual legal name, Rich Uncle Pennybags.
And it turns out people will just shock a guy to death if someone in a lab coat asks semi-nicely.
Chickens outnumber humans more than 2 to 1.
It is the only R-rated film to gross $1 billion.
With over 175 episodes and counting, there's sure to be a top 10 list that tickles your weird little fancy just right. Listen to 10ish Podcasts now on any podcast app. That's 10ish Podcast.
All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Charlie Cates. He was a great guest who brought a lot of good information to us, and I hope that you guys can use that and go out and check out his book as well. I will have a link to that in my show notes. I'm not really sure who is going to be the next guest on the show. I have a couple of recordings that I'm doing next week, so if you follow me on social media, you'll be able to see. I usually advertise on Fridays who the next guest will be on the show, so make sure that you're doing that. And if you aren't following me online, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Hive or even Snapchat or TikTok even. I post different content on those things, so go and follow me on each of those. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy hearing from you guys. If you want to send me a message, do so. I want to know what you guys think of these episodes, if you like what I'm doing, if you don't. You can also send me an email by sending it to giveadatapodcast@gmail.com. Like I said, I look forward to hearing from you guys. If there's somebody that you would like me to bring on the show, send me a message and tell me who you would like. Also, as you're listening to this, go to the top of the episode and rate and review this. Let me know what you think of this episode. If it's something that you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, give it a star rating, whatever it is, wherever you're listening. Just let me know what you think of this episode. I also want to give a shout out to both of my podcast networks that I'm a part of. I'm part of the OIW Podcast Network and the Avenue Podcast Network. You hear the Avenue at the beginning of the show, and you hear the OIW Podcast Network at the end of the show. I will have links to both of them in my show notes. You can find all kinds of great other podcasts that are there as well. I've found plenty that I really enjoy listening to, and you'll be hearing some of the other podcast promos on my show here real soon. We're kind of working that out, and I look forward to bringing them to you guys as well. So I have merch that's coming out. As you saw, I've been posting stuff for my wife's side business that she's doing, the Cups and Teas by Stasha. Go and find her stuff out there. I will have a link as well to her stuff in my show notes. She's got all kinds of cool stickers and hats and t-shirts, and she will also have my merch. We just placed the order for the screen prints for my shirts, and we can do the coffee mugs or even the stickers. Just go out there. I will have links, like I said, to her stuff on there. Look it up. It's some awesome stuff, and just show her some love. I also want to give one more shout out, and that is to D-Cure. He is the guy who created my ending theme song for me. You hear it at the end of every one of my shows now. He's an awesome guy who has come out with a lot of awesome music. And if you like what you hear, go and look up his stuff as well. I will have him linked in there at the end as well. So, like I said, I am very excited about everything that's going to be happening on this show. I've got some really cool guests that are coming up. Some very diverse guests. Some guests that actually have been requested by quite a few people. So, yeah, just stay tuned and keep listening. I love you guys. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Room rounded, but I got a podcast on. He calls us beautiful people, then tells us who we have on. The best part of my day, the world blocked out in my pods. Tell my friends all about it so that they follow along. And the host is kinda nerdy, but guess what I am as well. I don't feel so alone, and I began walking out of my shell. Heard a story, I needed connection I haven't felt. I'll be looking for the next one, till then farewell. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. Listen closely, download and tune in remotely. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. And listen closely, download and tune in remotely.
This podcast is part of the OIW Podcasting Network.